Good evening, everybody. This is a call to order for the City of Aspen City Council regular meeting for February 14th, 2023. Could we have roll call for attendance, please?
Present.
Here. Mayor Tory.
And I'm here. This evening, we are starting off with a proclamation. This is a proclamation in remembrance of Bill Murphy, community member, board member, all-around great guy. We want to remember him for so many years of service, but also being in our community and being a part of our community for so long. Whereas Bill Murphy was a well-known and respected member of the Aspen community for decades and was the epitome of a true Aspenite, and whereas for many years Bill contributed to the economic and social fabric of Aspen by unselfishly sharing his wisdom and counsel with friends, visitors, local businesses, and elected officials alike. Whereas Bill served the Aspen community as a member and chairman of the Liquor Licensing Authority since his first meeting in 1994 to his last meeting on November 1st, 2022. And whereas Bill's varied interests in athletics, business, art, literature, travel, good friends, and conversation embodied the Aspen ethos of mind, body, and spirit. And whereas on January 23rd, 2023, we lost an amazing community member, a familiar face at his favorite local establishments, and most of all, a friend. We say cheers to you, Murph. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Mayor, City Council, and citizens of Aspen celebrate and honor Bill Murphy for his decades-long commitment to the Aspen community. Thank you, guys. I want to thank members of Bill's family that were joining us tonight as well. Our words to you are many thanks to your family and Bill. He will be missed. And a new tradition has been started. If you're drinking a glass of red wine, stick a straw in it. We'll miss you, Bill. That'll bring us to citizens' comments and petitions. Are there any members of the public that wish to come on up, Ed? You can have a seat right there. Any one of those chairs. Looks like the mics are on. Please introduce yourself for the record, and I'll just remind you that we ask for about 3 minutes and give everybody a fair chance to speak.
Just sort of aim it towards you. Green light.
You want it green? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, you're good. You just start talking.
Yeah, Ed Cross, 51 years residency here, resident owner at Centennial since 1990, and have been continuously on the Board of Managers of Centennial from 1990. Prior to that, I lived in the rentals. I'm here today because we are in a legal dispute regarding Centennial with the city and APSHA. And as such, we've recently lifted the stay, and the board has come to the conclusion we would like to raise community awareness of our side of the issue. First, I'd like to mention that on the Centennial rentals, I think you've made a grievous mistake by not buying out the deed restriction that it's going to close 20 years odd after the death of my friend Michael Kinsley, who I hope lasts a long while. But that's going to increase, if you have to go down the road of redevelopment, the density in the area in order to make that workable. I think by passing on the deed restriction on the rentals, you can be pretty aware of what the deed restriction is worth to this community. Roger Maralt wrote an article that related to Centennial recently and explained how much value employee housing is to this community. I don't want to go into all the particulars of our situation. It'd be pretty lengthy. I want to keep this to the required time. But I do want to point out that all of Centennial's problems were initially and conclusively determined to be from the design of the buildings, which were meant for a desert climate, and the fact that we were not subsidised other than the EPA site, which the property was built on. And as such, there was a great deal of haste in the project. It was completed really quickly by someone, Sam Brown, new to development. There were value engineering problems which related specifically to the lack of a vapor layer between the exterior siding and the studs, and this was masked by the redwood siding, which was a great product on the exterior of the building. All our problems relate to that. We've been in negotiations with the city since a problem came to our, way back we had put some guttering on the buildings at our expense after the completion of the project, and this was believed to address, okay.
You can finish.
I'll just go straight to the chase. There's an easy solution for this, the Centennial situation. I discussed it with Dwayne Ramiro in 2014 after one of these meetings, and that is that you guys pony up the money to fix the problem and then regain your money spent as each unit sells. If we are currently worth, my unit's worth $350,000, you put $100,000 into it. When it comes time to sell, you get the money that you put back in, and we address the deed restriction. Otherwise, you're looking at a situation where there's no win, and you've got 92 units there. You recently sent us a proposal that meant more density in Centennial. It was soundly rejected by the membership after a long delay in examining it. And I just want to bring that to your attention. I think you will be hearing from other Centennial residents in the future. Thanks all.
Hang on one
Can I ask
thanks,
one
Sam.
question? Who designed and built Centennial?
As I understand it, it was a county project. It was in the county, but it was built by Sam Brown, who retained ownership of the rentals.
Yes.
And deed restrictions were put in place.
Yes. And the county designed and built and sold Centennial. Have you made the same appeal to them?
We are currently in a situation where we were asked to work with the city beginning in 2009. We worked closely with the city and presented all the information we had on the project from inception to your staff. At the time, that was led by Barry Crook, and I believe you members of the council in that time frame were all misled because the information we provided you was cherry-picked to make it appear that we were the problem. The thing was designed by an Israeli architect,
Okay.
is what I know.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
Thanks a lot, Ed.
Thanks, Ed.
Yeah, there were a couple items in there that maybe could use a little clarification as well. First of all, everybody's intention at this table is to find a resolution for any of the issues that are going on out there. The city has stepped up in a condition, as Rachel pointed out. We didn't build the units. We didn't make the mistake in the beginning. I personally have been in a number of meetings over the years where the city has tried to partner with both the county and the residents, and we've come up with no less than a half a dozen proposals, solutions, and we've not been able to meet with county or the HOA on making those work. But I just want to, our intention is to make everybody whole as possible, but we can't do this alone right now. There's other factors, but I appreciate you being here tonight, Ed, and we are scheduled for an executive session tonight, so we'll be having conversations, I'm sure. Thank you for being here. Public comment?
I just want to pass these photos for you guys to see. They're awful pictures, but visuals help. Excuse me, I have a little bit of a cold. My name is Guadalupe Lais. I own a small business in town. I'm at 306 South Mill Street, and I have a fine art photography gallery. I've been in town for 10 years. The gallery's been there for about 5 with a move. And the reason why I'm here, I want to take 2 minutes of your time. Every single building across from me is closed right now. What it was the pizza place last summer is shut down, and I was just told that it's going to take about a little bit more than a year. This information, I don't know if it's accurate, but they told me a little bit more than a year for that to start running again. And then the corner that you see in those pictures has been closed for 2 years. And for what I understand, it's going to be another 2 years. So that's about 6, 8 seasons that I have nothing going on right across from me. And then where Mario used to be on that corner on my street, again, there's nothing there as well. And as you can imagine, as a small business, I assume that you guys will appreciate having a small business that brings such a unique experience for the people that come to visit Aspen to have it open. And I wasn't really planning on coming here, but when I found out yesterday that all that is going to be shut down for that long, it's been really hurting the business. Foot traffic is almost nothing. I used to stay up until 10 at night. I have not even one person come in all night for weeks at a time. The holiday season this year, you will see traffic all over the town. Every single street except this street is dead. It looks like a dead street, like a dead end, even though we're in the core of town. So the reason why I'm here is to ask for a little help. If we can find a creative way to maybe think outside the box here, and I know there's a lot of regulations in town, I get that you can have more lights than you're supposed to, and I'm not talking specifically my store. I can only do so much myself, but maybe we can be creative and figure out ways so we can get some people walking on that street. The only people that I get on that street right now is people going from maybe the Riches or the hotel straight to, the restaurants down there. I understand, I see your face. However, what else can I do if I don't just come and bring it to your attention, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. As you know, I live a half a block from you.
Sure.
So I see that street on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very concerning.
Yeah, appreciate you. This is a topic that's come up. There is one owner of the 2 properties across from you. He's made very deliberate choices about his closings and how he's going about putting a tenant in to those places, including about when he moves those tenants out. He has his permits in place. He is doing the work that he thinks he needs to do in order to get those buildings up and running. And we've had these conversations at this table. Our hands are tied in a lot of ways. We don't have a lot of mechanisms to make sure that the landlords fulfill on a timely basis. But I'm going to look to my city attorney right now. Jim, this conversation's been going around the community, really since these 2 blocks have been impacted as they have. We've come to you, I know members of council have come to you and asked you for some ideas, suggestions. We talked about vacancy fees, we've talked about completion bonds, and the like. where are we with having any sort of mechanism to encourage the pace of development and tenancy in our downtown?
I don't know if I can answer the question of where we are. We are looking at various alternatives, including a vacancy tax. The completion bond issue is a totally different and more complicated aspect that we've talked about before that I don't really think is a viable alternative. We are trying to work with the owners of properties as best we can to get them to move forward. I don't have any specific timeframes as to when other legislation may come before you. I can't answer that, but I can tell you that we are looking at alternatives that may be available for us to avoid these kind of situations.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Ward?
Yeah, Tori correctly pointed out that one owner owns those properties, those businesses, and it's within his control to do something with it. The city tries to work as closely and expeditiously as possible, but when change orders come in and somebody decides they don't want it and all these other factors, that our hands are kind of tied, because with property come the development rights. They have I think they have building permits, and they have not gone forward with it. They've made change orders at the Crystal Palace building. Throughout town, there have been a number of delays, and the ability for the city government to do much about it is limited. And we share the frustrations. I think it's bad for the whole town to have vacancies, because I think that drives up rents for those businesses that are open. Speaking for myself, and I think the rest of council, we want to see those holes lively. We want to see new businesses in them. We want to see the downtime as short as possible. And we haven't seen that. And so we share your frustration. And I just will share, in 1976, the first job I had was in that location where you are at Sporthouse Lindner. Yeah. And I've been in there a number of times, and I love your photography.
Thank you.
I encourage everybody to stop in and buy something.
There you go. One more thing that I'll just say, I appreciate your time, and I understand what you're saying. It makes complete sense. If there's anything that we can think about in a creative way to maybe do something in that street that the city can maybe help, anything, I would really appreciate it. Yeah.
Rachel?
Yeah, just briefly, I appreciate the way you're asking to see if there's anything we can do to enliven that. I think it would also potentially be good for you to take this concern to the Aspen Chamber of Commerce, the business community, to see if they can think of ways to create a little more excitement on that street as well. That's kind of their role and mission in many ways. It's frustrating for all of us at the table and the whole community. People have private property rights. And, once they've gotten a permit, they have a time to do this, and then they make the next step, and they have time to do that. But if you were on the other side of that same equation and hoping to build a house or something, and you saw the interest rates go up to 7%, you might say, I'm going to hold off for 6 months and see if I can get a lower construction loan. Or it's hard to get contractors right now, and it's also a lot of supply chain issues. So I'm not making apologies for him. I'm just saying that when we look on the private sector bundle of rights and their side, government can only intervene in so many ways. I've asked, and others have, can we find ways that do incentivize and do punish, sticks and carrots, those who do not complete in a timely fashion. So I have empathy for you, but we don't have any new tools right here at the table. And I would think, again, this enliven that area is something we can maybe talk to our Parks Department about. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask you one question? Yeah, I mean, as has been mentioned, we're kind of working on two concurrent things in this next year. One is changing the process so that the holes don't stay there as long, but that's really not going to solve your problem immediately. The other is comprehensively looking at sort of affordable business and how to enliven things. And I wonder, can't do anything now in the winter, but over the summer, if there was opportunity to put, kind of farmers market style things in that block, would you see that as a benefit that brings foot traffic, or would you see that as unfair competition?
No, definitely benefit. I mean, we just need people walking there.
Okay, that's helpful to know.
Yeah.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. See you soon.
Thank you.
Just for the record, I will let you know, I've reached out to the owner of those properties. I've had conversations with him about, trying to move some of his projects along, and I'm not going to share the details of the response, but it wasn't great, and it was not really community considerate. I'll just put it that way. Other members of the public, come on up. And if you just introduce yourself for the record, please.
Good evening, all. I'm Jeff with Harper and Hudson. Two parts, actually, just kind of hit off of what she was going about. I've reached out to this same individual as a very eagerly business owner in this town. We are actually opening a restaurant in Snowmass Village because we were unable to find locations available, ironically in Aspen, even though we have blocks that are completely empty. I reached out to this owner and told him that we would do pop-ups, we would sign big leases with him, we would cover costs, we would cover the construction costs, we'd do our own build-outs. We're very creative, and again, response was, we're just not interested, and we're gonna keep that all closed up and shut down. And so my suggestion to that would be just trying to find these guys before they get started, right? If you're loud and proud and coming into this town, and if there's any way that the council could pause them and slow them down from, obviously getting 10 or 12 buildings under your belt, but he's got his own methodology, and he's not trying to assist us with being small business, which, as I grew up in this town in Aspen, that's what this town was. It was a unique experience. Every business that you walked into had a business owner with a personality that everybody was excited to meet and get to know and get a free sandwich from. And now it's, let me charge you $85 for that sandwich that should only be $2 because the quality's lacking. Part two is Harper and Hudson being unique as I'm speaking. We have an outdoor space. We're probably the only restaurant or food situation in the entire town that doesn't have an indoor seating arrangement at the moment, and we're working with our building owner to expand our operation to accommodate that with some of the space in the same building to allow us to, get these 4 tables, 16 people, cafe style, coffee, come and sit down, grab your burger, enjoy your meal, but still have our, apparel experience around the outside of it, kind of staying true to who we are. In the meantime of that, we're in the midst of the winter, and obviously, people trying to find people to work and all the things that are going on with our world right now. The city's obviously dealing with that same thing as a business owner coming in. I've dealt with so many people. I've gotten so many good relationships to then pick up the phone call and call them back, and they're no longer there. And what we're seeking is, so I put up a tent for a private event that we had, and this tent is a temporary tent that covers approximately, if I slammed you in there, about 12 people. This tent is kind of designed for special days like today. As I've kind of learned after the private event, my numbers increased, very simply. My transactions went up. By putting this tent there, it made my outdoor patio look more lively. It's obviously easier for us to keep snow off of it, and it's more comfortable for a patron to come in and order a burger and sit there under the tent in the heat, or go in the shop, which is ultimately at the end of the day what I wanted them to do, was to go into the shop and wait for their food and then buy something impulsively. But the tent really spiked our sales. Whether it's because it looks more lively or because it's more comfortable for the patron. When I went through the process, I started this process, the application process with the city at the beginning of 2022. I got my pre-summary written out. We wanted to do a pergola style awning over the top. We wanted to do a pergola style awning over the top. We submitted all of our paperwork for them to then tell us that we couldn't make the decision because HPC was gone. Me being in a historic building, that paused everything. My paperwork just kind of has been sitting, waiting for some type of move forward, go ahead, don't, you can't. And then we were then told that, March would be the time frame of this because of the elections and city council and these kinds of decisions weren't going to be made. We're still in the midst of peak season, and so I'm trying to just keep this temporary tent for as long as I can, or at least for as long as I can.
How long has it been up?
It's been up for 14 days.
Just 14 days, okay. And I don't know if you guys have seen it, the tent. So your request, you're asking us to leave it up for a certain period of time? Or?
So I would love, I can show the pre-summary paperwork, I can show the application process of what we've done, when we did it, the timestamps behind it to show, we went through the necessary steps of the city process to obtain what we were seeking prior to the winter season. And then the delay happened. So if it's, we resubmit the paperwork and we can get some eyes to see on it and we can keep this tent to the point of us allowing this application to get approved or declined, and then we remove it at that point. But just buffering it to as close up to us putting some type of system over coverage of the patio.
Okay. All right.
I'd like to hear from our attorney on this.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest with you, I'm not aware of the issue at all. There's a process for getting these approved. It sounds like he's taken steps in the process. I do not know what the status is. I don't know if anyone from ComDev knows anything about this application. Apparently not. We can look into it. But I'm not aware of the specifics of this, but I do think that the conversation needs to take place not at this table at this point, may come to you, but not at this point. I think the conversation needs to be had with Philip, who is joining us now.
Thanks, Jim. Hi, I'm Philip.
Hi, I'm Jeff.
Pleased to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I'm not familiar with the request. I don't believe that Deputy Director Anderson's familiar with the request either. But we'd be the place to sort of take a question like this. We're happy to work with you to try and get some clarity on whatever communications you've gotten from our department and what the path forward would be for you. So I'd be happy to talk with you first thing tomorrow morning and try and come to some understanding.
Excellent.
Jeff, this is across the alley from Big Ramp?
Correct.
Okay, yeah. I think I met with you guys about a year or more ago.
Yes, sir.
And I think you didn't have a kitchen, but you were preparing food off-site and bringing it on-site.
So now we have the cedar shed, if you will. It's got multiple different, it is a full source of, like our raw meats and stuff are prepared off, but as far as preparation and stuff, it's a made to order. So like your breakfast burrito is made to order right there for you. Fair Affordable Food Act is what we joke our name is, or what we're about.
What time do you open for breakfast burritos?
We're open at 8:30 and we close at 6 p.m. right now.
Please meet with Philip and.
Appreciate you guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Just one question. First, they're good and affordable, which is awesome. I know that with Snowmass going on, you're not the person anymore bandwidth-wise, but I am curious, if the conversation with Guadalupe had come up before you had gone all in on Snowmass, and there was an opportunity to do another Cedar Shack style thing across from Guadalupe in front of that non-working building, is that something you would have been interested in as a business operator, and do you think could have been successful?
We are very interested. I still do have the bandwidth. We're just getting started is the way that we kind of feel it, right? So we're really just getting started with the operation, but as far as like opening concepts like that, we turned it into a smart kitchen. So it keeps the cost and overhead out, which allows us to give you the highest quality food for a non-Aspen price. And that's literally our secret.
Non-Aspen price, that's great. Cool, I love it.
John, something?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. You mentioned that your tent is heated. Is that with propane heat?
Yes. Yep. So we have 6 propane heat in this, also into this application that we've done. We would like to run the gas line and, think of Aspen Tap, right? So the pergola that Aspen Tap has currently on their outside is essentially what we would like to go forth as our end goal. And then you could just, have an awning that would cover it as the weather, and then it could, roll back up kind of like a Zane's, comes out and rolls back in.
If you have the opportunity, could you look into electric heat? And I don't mean, I'm not giving you direction about like, hey, go electric. I'm just saying, if you could help us, you could help us learn a little bit about it, see what you find out about kind of the availability.
So the electric was 100%. And I guess I did say gas because that was my last, what would you call it? So the last that they gave to me, electric was where we were going, but so being in a historical building, I've already burned an arm in the alleyway, so they've had to come in and dig up the alleyway to then bring in more power to my Stein building. The historical building wasn't. But so that was the concern of it. We have had an electrician out, and that is our goal, is 220 for it as opposed to the gas on there for emission reasons.
Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Yeah. All right, you guys can, thank you, Philip. Thanks for jumping up. Let's continue with public comment this evening. Members of the public, come on up.
Hi, all. Always appreciate Peter Fornell. Thanks for the time. If you all were employers and I was an employee of yours and I lied to you and it was proven beyond the shadow of a doubt that I lied to you as part of my employment, would you fire me?
This is public comment, not Q&A, Peter.
All right, well, then if there's no answer, my question is, with all that we know about the misstatements of fact and lies that were placed upon the city of Aspen, what are you doing right now to ensure that you remove Mr. Mick Ireland from his position as compliance enforcement officer for APSHA when it's been shown beyond any question that he misrepresented all of you? And if there's no answer, I'll take that to mean that there is no answer. And thank you.
It's not an issue for this council. It's not a question, it's not a Q&A, as Rachel pointed out. It's not an issue for this council.
Thanks.
It's a issue, if anything, for APSHA.
None of you would disagree then, though, that he misrepresented everyone in the statements that he made about the legitimacy of his use in a deed-restricted association?
I'm not going to comment to that question, but my reaction is that I think you brought this to APSHA, the APSHA board?
Yes, and it's been investigated.
And
Is
aren't they a quasi-jurisdictional
Is that closed?
operation
Is it open?
that you guys are a
Peter
portion of its responsibility
has come back repeatedly, but does not accept the answer that the director of the housing office has given him.
Well, there's statements made and there's facts presented. The statements made by Mr. Ireland are statements. The facts presented are facts presented that are indisputable. And when you know that there's someone working for you that is misstating the truth, is it all right with you in your soul to continue his employment? And I know that you have a hand in that because it is a multi-jurisdictional organization.
Okay. Peter, I've met with you, I've spoken with APSHA and with Mick, and we're not judge and jury here. It's really an APSHA thing, and I don't want to take sides with Mick or with you. I understand what you're.
Don't you have jurisdiction over APSHA?
We have one vote on the APSHA board.
That is not how the IGA reads. I have an administrative responsibility to oversee the staff and provide fiduciary responsibilities to
So
the
you're taking
organization.
responsibility for it?
No. What I'm telling you is the Aspen-Pitkin County Housing Authority is an independent government entity which has made the choice to hire an individual to serve as
Funded
the
by all
enforcement.
of us.
There is a subsidy provided by Pitkin County and the city of Aspen in lieu of them using their ability to leverage a tax on the community. If they chose to present such a question at some time, I'd anticipate the municipal subsidy would be reduced. So again, we've tried to share with you. You can have individual conversations, but at this point, this is not a decision-making board before you on the issue that you're bringing forward.
If I worked for you and I lied to you, would you continue my employment?
Peter,
This is not a Q&A. You've been advised of that. Peter, there's been multiple conversations with you about this, and I understand you're upset and you're frustrated. I want you to know I fully acknowledge that. However, the resolution you're seeking, you're not going to receive at this table, unfortunately, because it's not the venue that can do what you're asking. And that's why we're encouraging you, again, that this is not the venue that can support the request you're making.
Can I help with, could you assist
I
me with
encourage
directing?
you, no, the APSHA board can direct me under the IGA, and that's it. I don't direct the APSHA board in any manner. They are an independent authority.
yeah.
I'd just say, Peter, I think when you first came to the APSHA board and presented evidence, it was looked at, and if you have additional evidence presented, it'll be looked at.
It has been sent in, thank you. All right, have a nice day.
Thanks. Hey, Jim, I'd like to get some more information at what, I don't really know the details of the case, and I don't know what the APSHA board did about it, so.
I'm not certain I know all of the circumstances either. We can certainly get back to you.
I would like that. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Members of the public, citizen comments tonight? Sure.
Amos Underwood.
Amos.
And Chris Benden.
Chris.
Here on behalf of the LLA. First, we want to thank you for the proclamation that you made tonight. It was very well done. And our concern is now we're just down to 3 members. So if we're, I guess, asking for help on trying to get some more volunteers to join our board so that we can continue servicing the city of Aspen. Otherwise, I think it gets defaulted back to you guys.
The board is a 5-member board. Quorum is 3. So currently, and Chris, you were an alternate. Have you moved?
Yes.
Have you moved into a regular seat?
Yes.
Okay, so there's 3 seated. So you're able to conduct business as of now. Have we re-advertised for LLA?
No.
Okay.
Well, let's
Okay.
start.
And just saying, I mean, I see the advertisements in the paper, but I don't know if we've gotten much response, so I don't know what else can be done, but maybe you guys can think.
Amos, thank you for coming forward. For the public, could you identify what the LLA is and what your duties are?
We're the local licensing authority, and Bill Murphy was our chairman, and our duties are to review alcohol licensing and marijuana licensing in the city of Aspen.
And there's no samples, which is, feels kind of rude.
Awakening.
Right. It's an easy board to be on. If you know members in the public that, or anyone listening is thinking about engaging in, civic responsibility, it's an easy board to step into. It's a once a month. Bill Murphy would run the meeting starting about 2 minutes early, take about 90 seconds for the meeting, and we'd be out at slightly before the start time, official start time. But it is an easy board to get on if you're interested or know of anyone that might be interested in stepping forward. Just an anecdote on, a couple anecdotes on Bill Murphy, who I called George a bunch of times, and he forgave me for it each time. I think there's going to be a celebration this summer. Yeah. Hoping people will bust out their flip-flops And if they can find one, a first-generation Patagonia purple, and not like a pleasant purple, but like a cartoon, like kind of sort of really bright, it's hard to look at, purple first-generation fleece that he apparently got in 1984 and was still wearing, I think, this a couple weeks ago. But, you know, he'll be sadly missed by a lot of folks in town, us included. Staff I know really liked working with him, and he was just a person that would make you smile. So, yeah, we'll miss him.
Thank you both.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Members of the public comment this evening, looking in room as well as online, if there's anybody online that wishes to make public comment this evening. Seeing none, we'll move forward on our agenda. That brings us to council members' comments this evening. Council members?
Tonight?
Environment well?
No.
Can I start with you?
Yeah, it is election season. I encourage everybody to familiarize yourself with the choices before you, to vote, I've always considered voting my bitch ticket. If I don't vote, I don't figure I have the right to come and complain. So I want everybody to be fully informed and engaged. Snow's great out there.
Yeah, it's a nice thing.
Ward, you bring up a really interesting proposition there. You must show proof of voting if you want to come complain or something like that.
No, that was self-imposed.
Thank you for that. Rachel?
Yeah, thank you. You know, we're constantly hearing a drumbeat that people who live in affordable housing are scofflaws, that they're not complying with the rules. There's cheaters. There's, you know, issues. And APSHA does have a compliance officer part-time. We're looking for a compliance officer full-time as well. And there's always numerous cases that are under investigation. And oftentimes they're resolved. There's a misunderstanding, people older deed restrictions or whatever, but they're brought into compliance. And we have created a fine schedule for people when they're kind of lower level issues that they can resolve. We also have a hearing officer who is now hearing these issues so that the APSHA board can work on policy and other things and have a hearing officer when a case rises to that level, when there seems to be major issues and they're not resolved. But I want to be clear, the hearing officer is never the final determination. If someone doesn't like the hearing officer's decision, say with a land use decision on the Board of County Commissioners, they can appeal to the Board of County Commissioners. And if people don't like the decision of the hearing officer in APSHA, they can appeal to the APSHA board. Or they can appeal directly to the courts and skip right over the APSHA board. And I guess if you lost that, you could appeal to the Court of Appeals if you did not like the rulings that had gone against you. And it just kind of strikes me as something a little funny that we've had a hearing officer that has ruled against a resident-occupied homeowner, and they are taking it directly to court. So I feel a little comfortable that they're not taking it to the APSHA board. And instead of saying, oh, great, we're starting to see some real compliance cases come through. We're seeing what everyone's been asking for with all these cheaters and scofflaws and non-compliance and people who don't follow the rules. And what we see instead is people going after the hearing officer. And I wonder, is that, oh, we're not supposed to enforce on those people, just the little people? Or what's going on? But I find it very disingenuous and disappointing. I'll just leave my comments at that today. Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. Down this end?
I do have a comment, but
No,
you go first.
please go.
With the World Cup skiing championships going on in Europe right now, the World Cup skiers decided it would be a good time to write a letter to the Federal International Day Ski, or FIS, Pro skiers are demanding competition changes, fearing winter sports becoming quote-unquote unjustifiable to the public. I'd like to read the first paragraph of this letter. As FIS athletes, we're already experiencing the effects of climate change in our everyday lives and our profession. More and more often, competitions have to be canceled due to extreme weather events or lack of snow. Preseason training slopes are getting rarer and shorter every year because glaciers are shrinking at a frightening pace. A heat wave in January brings the next lack of snow to Europe. Soon we won't be able to produce artificial snow at some classic World Cup slopes anymore as winter temperatures rise above zero in low-altitude ski resorts more frequently. The public opinion about skiing is shifting towards unjustifiability. This will also bring the industry into trouble. Our sport is threatened existentially and urgently. Over 200 FIS ski racers signed this letter, and they've listed some things that it would be really good things for the FIS to consider as the sport moves forward. Thank you.
Skippy, comments this evening?
I just want to wish everybody a happy Valentine's Day. I think we all deserve and need a little bit of love, and whether it's spouse, partner, friend, children, let's share a little bit more today. It'll be good for us and the full community. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, that's real.
Very good.
Thanks, Skippy.
I forgot one. I should wish my son happy 42nd birthday. And it was his birthday today.
It's a big year.
Yeah. Comments this evening. I'm going to start off. The election is here. Ballots were mailed out yesterday. That means they will be hitting your mailboxes in the next day or two. And then election day is March 7th. Please make sure you participate. Democracy works best when people show up and participate. For this council, we have been talking over the last couple of weeks. We had a proposal by a young man named Sheldon Gentry. He was looking for funding from the city for a plaque in recognition of some of our community members that have been lost over the years on the battlefield, our veterans that we've lost. Sheldon is not able to join us until the end of this month, so a couple of weeks. But as you know, as I've shared with you, his proposal, he has made his ask of the city of Aspen for $500. And I need to get members of council to give direction in a public meeting. Many of you have shown support for this at this time. I know that we do want to have Sheldon come and address us and tell us about his project. It is for his Eagle Scout badge, as a matter of fact. But at this time, I'm asking council members to show their support for the $500 to go towards this commemorative plaque.
Let the eagle fly.
Yeah.
Ward, you had a comment?
Yeah, I support it, but I think that his appearance before us should be mandatory in that getting a merit badge for an Eagle should be more than just a couple of emails.
He'll be here.
Yeah.
Okay, then, can we show support? So that
Support. I agree with Ward. I know Eagle Scout is a difficult thing to achieve, and it takes a lot of hard work, and I think that hard work is what makes being an Eagle Scout special. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I support it.
I'll support it.
We'll take that as direction, informal direction, and two things, it'll be charged to City Council's discretionary funding that you budget each year, and then I'm hearing that there's a request to not advance funding until he's been here before council. I just needed to understand that.
No, the reason I'm bringing it up now is because I'd like to get it in process.
You mean the actual forging of the plaque?
Yes.
And then he could come and discuss, is that okay?
And he's scheduling himself to be here on the 27th, I want to say.
Okay. That's a work session, or?
It is.
Great.
Okay,
Okay.
I support it.
Okay, thank you. Other things, and I always like to say better things you can be doing than this meeting.
Such an easy list.
Well, this one actually is kind of a little different. I want to make some public recognition for a member of our community, Barkley Dodge. of Bosque has recently been named as a semifinalist for the James Beard Award.
Wow.
He is one of 9 that have been identified for the best chef in the United States mountain area.
Wow.
That's awesome. Way to go, man.
Yeah, I believe the James Beard team came through town in December. They do not let you know when they're coming in. They do not let you know who they are when they're there. And all I can say, if you haven't been to Bosque, it's a treat. Go try it. And congratulations to Barkley.
Yeah.
Those are my comments this evening, and we'll move on our agenda down to agenda amendments. I didn't see any there. We have city manager comments this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. A few things for you. If you didn't know, golf passes went on sale yesterday. So
I sure didn't.
the community, if you haven't bought your pass, you need to get on it, is the short story of it.
You guys can take me.
Also, I just wanted to let you know that Ajax Cubs, the new operator of 4 classrooms at the Yellow Brick, will be opening on Monday, February 27th. They have quite the wait list. It'll be a phased opening across the 4 classrooms so that they can work things out, make sure they've got good onboarding for all of their new staff. But I want you to know that that's happening as we speak, that they're in the final steps of that opening. Lastly, just wanted to let you know that I'll be taking some time on the February 28th City Council agenda during my comments to update you regarding the police chief recruitment. Thank you.
Tori, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I do want to add one thing. We've been blessed to have a couple of sister cities exchanges going on. We had students from Abbottoni, and we had a doctor's exchange from Bariloche. I had honor and privilege of skiing with them Sunday, cross-country skiing on Saturday, and having a great time breaking bread with them 3 nights in a row. And they're back in Bariloche, and they had a wonderful time.
Very good.
Thank you.
Nice.
That'll bring us to board reports.
I think we also have an exchange coming Easter Sunday with Bariloche students, and I think there's one coming from Chamonix or Garmisch-Partenkirchen. And what are the dates on those?
Coming up.
Coming up.
Sorry,
Coming
when I
up
don't have it
soon.
memorized, that I just recall the request we've received for some support.
Some swag. Yeah, it's great to see these exchanges going again. I was at the RAFTA board meeting. Let's see. We're proceeding with the purchase of the roadway in. 6 buses are in purchase this year. We went through a whole process of the Rio Grande corridor for enforcement for encroachments on the Rio Grande corridor from Glenwood Springs to Woody Creek, and looking to extend some bonds for the funding of the Glenwood Springs maintenance facility. That's part of the Destination 2040. And we did some succession planning too for Dan Blankenship, who has been our executive director for many, many years, and he's beginning to look on the horizon towards retirement, and that's coming up in the next couple of years.
Thank you for that. Board reports tonight, Rachel?
Yeah, thank you. I don't think there's been anything since our last board report on APSHA. We will have an APSHA board meeting tomorrow night at 4 p.m. Those are pretty much the first and third Wednesday of every month. I will be driving to Denver after that meeting, if the weather's holding up, or perhaps leaving early, for 2 days of Colorado Municipal League policy legislative meetings in Denver. I believe Tara Nelson, city staff, will be attending one of those as well to be able to really keep tracking the issues. And that's kind of pretty much the main for me right now. I would like to let the board know that during World Cup, The Thursday, the 2nd, and Friday, the 3rd, are the policy meetings for Club 20 in Grand Junction. And so some of you guys are going to have to hold up the World Cup flag for me while I'm in those meetings. That's unfortunate. The other thing that there's a lot of kind of overlapping meetings that would be interesting to attend relating to watershed and water issues. There is a bill this session that I think we're going to need to get behind with our water department. I have spoken with Tyler. He's paying attention to this. But the state engineer has determined that stream restorations and riparian fixes might go against Colorado water law because you're now rebuilding beaver dams and it's impounding water that the downstream users are starting to complain against river restoration projects. And so there is a bill to try to fix that at the state legislature and say restoring wetlands and beaver dams and things like that are not a long-term impoundment of water. And they actually help raise the water table, which helps with return flows significantly. So those are kind of a few things. The big one I've talked about before is still bubbling around, and that is whether the state would like to take local control away from communities to bust out height limits, density limits, side yard limits, automatically allowing ADUs and things like that. So I don't have a great deal of fear of them going forward, but you just never know. And there seems to be an awful lot of different housing bills going forward. The other one is potentially a state mandated building materials for fire resistance and the creation of a new fire board that would be determining outdoor materials and their fire resistance, which may upset some of our design community, but we'll see where that goes. We are in the WUI. Thank you.
Thank you. Board reports. John?
You want me to cover the CAST meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. Tori and I attended a CAST, Colorado Association of Ski Towns meeting in Steamboat Springs. Mostly it was about Steamboat. And a big part of their talk was how they had reforested the Yampa River, which is a huge part of Broward County's
Water and energy.
yeah, a huge part of their summer tourism. So anyway, they decided that one of the best ways to preserve the Yampa was to increase forest cover, which is shade, to cool the water in the river. They planted 23,000 trees since 2009 with an 80% survival rate. Avon pitched in when they were talking about this and said that they found when they were building a new water treatment plant that water treatment plants put warm water into rivers. And so a $10 million water treatment plant was proposed. Luckily, Avon's rec center is right next to their water treatment plant. So instead of building a cooling tower, they used heat pumps to take the warm water from the water treatment plant to heat their recreation center. Their Steamboat's new city hall and fire station, it's a combo building, is going to be all electric. They have a new affordable housing project outside of town that's some gentleman donated, I think, $26 million to purchase this property, but they're looking at geothermal energy to heat the affordable housing at Brown Ranch. Their bus ridership has gone up this year because of the huge snow year they're having. And also in the same vein of planting trees instead of building water towers and using heat pumps, they found that natural climate solutions can reduce 1/3 of carbon emissions without using technology. Just old-fashioned stuff. Anyway, that was my CAST report.
And then one additional item to that is the work that's going on around the governor's office, housing suggestions for the state. There's some concern around in the mountain communities that some of the potential new regulations might not fit kind of our build ethic, if you will. We're lucky. We have Sarah, who has agreed to work with CAST on that board to be in touch with the governor's office and share our point of view for our community. So I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Sarah?
Sure. We've met with the governor's office now and have continued to provide written comment. Just to give you an understanding of the coalition that's building, it includes CML, CCI, SDA, CCAT, so alphabet soup, you've got them all. Also the Metro Mayor's Caucus. And so I am representing CAST along with the mayor of Breckenridge in these discussions to help inform the considerations for what the governor is intending to find a sponsor for. I think Rachel listed some of those things. And one of them is informing them of our 50 years history of some of the things they're suggesting and about some challenges that they would need to consider if they believe that is an appropriate solution. Of course, we have another whole issue with home rule associated with this as well, which has a lot of communities concerned about the state dictating land use patterns without local consent and involvement in that decision making. So I think we have a couple different layers of issues to go on that. So I will certainly share with you and my responsibilities to the entire CAST membership, keep them updated on those discussions.
Yeah. Just to add to that, for readers of the Colorado Sun, it has a really good article about these issues today and some of the concerns with mountain communities. I've raised them through some of the conference calls with CML staff, but you really just have to ask who's going to be doing oversight on any of the ADUs, and are they going to be short-term rentals? Are they going to be turned into a guest bedroom but not really a long-term room? Are they a kid's playroom? Meanwhile, the neighborhood takes a growth, but without doing this correctly, this could end up being job generators as opposed to housing to be able to satisfy the workforce shortages throughout the state. Thank you.
I'm trying to pull up my agenda from the Board of Health. Did you have another?
While you do that, I can go ahead and provide a quick airport update. And then there was another bill that was mentioned about hardening requirements for new construction around fire resistance. I do want to let you know as well, we provided comment on that bill at the staff level to drafters because some of the provisions in it have financial implications for administration at the local level. And so we didn't debate about local control too much. We thought that was probably more appropriate if the bill actually ever got to committee. But there are concerns about what their expectations for local administration of the state mandate would be. It would require us coming and asking for additional staffing and technical assistance we currently do not have. And then, just to give you a quick update on the airport, we do have another airport meeting this Thursday. However, between the last two meetings, I've continued some work on the subcommittee around pollutants and how the pollutant monitoring system may or may not be designed for the airport, and how does that interface with other pollutants that are off of the airport but still affect human health, mainly due to Highway 82 and including sitting vehicles on Highway 82. And so we're working on coming up with some proposals to go back to the full advisory board for consideration here over this year.
Thank you.
Rachel mentioned we did the last APSHA board meeting, but just in case we missed it, because CAST is before that in the time frame, just a real quick one. I just think it's important because I've noticed public acclamations recently that the only thing we're doing about housing is the lumberyard, and yet reality says that at our last APSHA meeting, we were focused on a capital maintenance grant program to provide opportunity for matching grants for existing members so that we can begin to provide opportunities. And so we went through that and gave additional comment to staff to continue to refine that programming so that we have those matching distinguishing things, limiting the categories to those most in need, so categories 1 through 3, as opposed to 4s and 5s and ROs, getting more detail about what does or doesn't count for that, and then some things just to secure the use of public dollars around homeowners insurance and what things could be covered by other avenues that are pre-existing. At the same time, we went to next steps on our right-sizing pilot to get the most use out of our existing stock. So the things that are being asked for are being done.
Very good. Thank you, Skippy.
Another board report was the Board of Health met last week. We discussed mostly onboarding of new members. What was interesting to me was there was actually a water contamination up at, was it Lincoln Creek?
Hunter Creek, yeah.
Yeah, so it's been remedied. They don't think that it's continuing, but it's been mitigated at this point. It was very interesting to me because of the Board of Health and the scope of the items that we were talking about the other day, that one came up. Other than that, we had a lengthy presentation regarding the new legislature that passed regarding psychedelic mushrooms and the therapies that are involved there. Right now, there has been no direction from the state about some of those facilities that will be able to be licensed in the next few years. But we just had a presentation regarding it. There is nothing that this community is acting on currently, as it is still another good 12 months or so away. I'm looking at Linda, and I was just thinking, I did mention, my question at that time was, are we doing any planned outreach, and are we doing any informational campaigns coming up? The response was no, we don't have anything planned like that yet. We have a retreat coming up in a couple months that we'll be bringing that forward to the BOH to be discussing. So.
Yeah. And as we've talked about, Municipal League and others are very interested, since it was a statutory vote, to creating some guidelines and law around where these facilities can be and local control of that.
Tori, excuse me, you said a water contamination. I heard Hunter Creek and Grizzly Creek.
Yes, that's correct.
What was it?
Grizzly.
Yeah, it was actually up at the headwaters of the Roaring Fork Grizzly Reservoir.
Okay. What was the nature of that contamination?
I don't think
they don't
figured
know.
it out yet.
They don't
Okay. And then just comment on the plant-based therapy. There's some issues that I have with that, and that's along the lines of what the state is trying to dictate about workforce housing, that there's some prohibitions from local municipalities being able to do some of the controls and exert some control. So I'd just keep an eye on that. Thank you.
John?
I just wanted to mention one thing from the Board of Health meeting was our previous Board of Health meeting was right before the holidays, and there was concern about COVID, flu, and RSV were all going up, and as of last week, they were all in decline. So that's very good news.
Thank you for that. All right. With that, we'll move on our agenda down to consent calendar. Our consent calendar this evening is resolution number 7. This is a water efficiency plan update. Resolution number 11. This is a contract for T2 Systems. Resolution number 13, Maroon Creek multi-use trail license with Pyramid Ranch. Resolution number 20, Castle Creek Underpass retaining wall assessment and design. Resolution number 21 and 22, construction contract for the red brick electric circuit replacement. Resolution 23, this is approving the intergovernmental agreement between Pitkin County, Town of Snowmass Village, Aspen Valley Hospital, and the City of Aspen for the emergency winter overnight shelter. Board appointments and draft minutes of January 9th, 10th, and the 24th. I know we have a couple of items for discussion. The first one we'll pull is resolution number 7, the water efficiency plan update.
That's listed in our agenda as 007.
All right, guys, you got a license to kill.
I just thought that so much work has gone into it that it deserves some public attention, and I just want you to share with the community what your work is, and seems like to have the three of you here and just go yes on the consent agenda was a waste of your time, so have at it.
Sure. Cole, would you give a quick update?
Good evening, everyone. The 2022 Water Efficiency Plan is an update to our 2015 Water Efficiency Plan.
Would you mind just introducing yourself, name and title, so that folks know who you are?
Yeah, Cole Langford, Utilities Business Services Manager. So as I was saying, the 2022 Water Efficiency Plan is an update to our 2015 Efficiency Plan. It is a required update every 7 years, so this is that update. And essentially what this plan is it includes a suite of efficiency programs and different steps that the utility will take to increase our water savings. And we have a goal set out by 2035. And this plan, this update takes us to 2030. So far since 2015, we've seen a lot of success, and we're really excited to continue building on this plan over the next 7 years.
Questions, Rachel?
Yeah, thank you for pulling that word. I was thinking of it myself. Well, just congratulations on the hard work. I really appreciate that. And it's funny when you have a great snow year, people kind of forget we're in a drought. I've seen years when over at Blue Mesa, they're talking about how great the snow was, and they have great runoff, and they participate in what we call the coordinated releases, when all reservoirs let a little extra flow go out in the springtime, and it helps with the endangered fish, and it spurs their breeding cycles and things like that. And then they were like, what happened to all our snow? Because it just sublimated, it turns into a gas sometimes and disappears, doesn't even truly evaporate. So we don't know that we're out of the drought, and as they say, it'll take multiple years to really get out of the drought if the weather turns. So I'm hopeful for that. But what I wanted to bring up is that through Rudai Water and Power Authority, they had obtained a grant from WaterSmart, which to help with valley-wide watering standards. And they've been meeting with the departments up and down the valley, Glenwood, Carbondale, Basalt, Snowmass Village, Aspen, to say, people get confused because there's different, with Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or 5, before 9 and after 10, and different rules in different jurisdictions where people live. And so you could read the ad in one paper, but it's not what's good for your neighborhood or where you live. And so they're trying to develop just consistent standards. And so our board will be hearing about that soon. They've really done a lot of work to answer objections and things like that. I wonder whether this is something that when it comes to us formally, would we need to amend this plan to include that, or would that become part of our landscape ordinance, or just something that stands alone? So I just wanted to let you know, even as we're adopting this, we may seek to amend it to add more provisions in the future.
Yeah, Rachel, I can handle that. This water efficiency plan is kind of a baseline document, but it allows for the flexibility to address specific concerns of a regional plan. I think if the recommended updates were different than what's outlined here, we could easily accommodate that in some of our code language in Title 25, some of our standards, et cetera. And I think it's important for council and the community to know that the existing watering restrictions, conservation measures, efficiency measures in the community as a baseline are kind of what this regional plan has been modeled after. So Aspen has taken a lead regionally, and we're trying to get some of our regional partners to have the same messaging as us or as a collective.
That's great. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, on the wells, the water efficiency landscape, in looking at the numbers of usage, it seems like the residential outdoor usage is the highest percentage. And I know that the wells has put some standards on that, but I think that we could be tighter on those. It seemed like it was too easy for the people to meet them, and that the type of plants that are used, the amount that they can water, and the amount that we're using. But if you could just give a quick outline of the wells program and the qualified water efficiency and landscaper planning, and just pat yourself on your back a little bit, please.
Sure, I can handle that, and you might jump in and help me with the details. So our water efficient landscape ordinance and landscape standards, exactly as Ward outlined, are standards for the community during redevelopment or new construction for folks to put kind of the bones in place, whether it's the landscape, the plantings, or the irrigation or soil in place to have an efficient landscape and use reasonable amounts of water in the outdoor space. So we've taken that plan, we've updated it the last 3 years based on feedback from our customers, our participants, landscape professionals in the community, and Ward, to your point, I think we've been able to look at the water budget, which is kind of one of the key features of the plan, and ratchet that down to better meet our conservation goals while still respecting Aspen's beautiful landscape aesthetic.
Thank you.
I have no other.
Thank you so much for that. Appreciate that information.
I have a question on the red brick, so Tyler might need to just stay up there.
Say the same thing.
Just to, maybe council hasn't missed the press release, but Justin Foreman is the Director of Utilities now, and that was a change that happened about 3 weeks ago with his promotion.
Oh, okay.
So really, we're going to put him on the hot seat.
We'll put him on the hot seat. This is really just a clarification because the way the memo read, but when we say the red bricks, it's not about that much money going into the red brick, it's just that's where the electric line ends up. Is that correct? Because you read the memo, and it's like, we're putting $2.6 million into the red brick, but no, we're not. It's not into the red brick. That's just one of the destinations of the line that's being replaced.
Yeah, that's what we call that circuit.
Okay, well, thank you so much for that. I just wanted to make sure it was on the record. Thank you.
Lukewarm seat.
Yeah.
This is phase 2 of 2.
Correct.
And the whole amount here, 2.3 million, is for this phase 2.
Correct.
And when this is done, what does that mean we've accomplished through phase 1 and phase 2 of the red brick circuit replacement?
So this was the #1 circuit identified within our study that needed replaced. This will get us over 5,000 linear feet of new conduit and cable all throughout the downtown core to increase that reliability and bring us into the next 30 and 40 years.
Thank you for that. It's an item that really hasn't come up in this campaign very much, but it's something that this council's aware of, and most definitely the manager's office, about the infrastructure needs of our community. This is really just some of the first steps. I think that we're going to have a lot more replacement, both of water infrastructure as well as our electrical infrastructure. So the public should know. But I want to say, I paid you guys so many compliments yesterday as we were talking about this, because your phase 1 was done really well, very effectively. I live in the downtown. Some of the work was going on just blocks away from me. I did have power outages, but brief and announced. I knew they were coming, so I just want to say to the whole team that was working out there, thank you so much and great job.
Thank you. We'll pass that along.
Please do.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I'd like to move that we adopt the consent calendar.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Quick further discussion for me. There are board appointments this evening. I just want to highlight those because we so appreciate those that volunteer for our boards and commissions. Dr. Tom Kurt has been reassigned to the Wheeler Opera House Advisory Board. I want my fellow council members to know that I actually put in a little extra personal note to Bob Eflin, who also applied for the Wheeler. I let him know that we all really appreciated him, that he is very qualified and would be a welcome team member for the Wheeler Opera House Advisory Board. But Tom Kurt has been doing a great job and wanted to retain his seat. Tom also has an advantage of being a volunteer usher at the Wheeler, so he's got a really good front of house and back of house kind of understanding about some of the things there. Kara Thompson is back to the Historic Preservation Commission. She's actually seated chair as well. And Judy Clausen has been appointed to the Grants Steering Committee. Part of the reason that I wanted to bring this up as well is because of what we heard earlier with the LLA. Folks, if you are interested in participating on one of our volunteer boards or commissions, go on to the city website and fill out the application. We will be doing another round of interviews very soon. With that, could we? Yes, sir.
I'd just like to clarify for the record that there are two sets of minutes, January 9th and January 10th, not January 24th, as stated earlier. Thanks.
Thank you. And we have a motion and a second. Could we have a roll call vote for the consent calendar, please?
Counselor Doyle,
Yes.
Counselor Howenstein,
Yes.
Counselor Mesereau.
Yes.
Counselor Richards.
Yes,
Mayor Tory.
Yes.
there we go.
I thought about going now. Dang it. I have to pee as
I'll be
well.
back in a minute. You
Yep,
can
go right ahead.
Oh, wait, we'll do shifts.
It's okay, because they got to come up and.
All right, we won't do shifts.
So we're going to move on our agenda. Thank you guys for being here. We're going to move on our agenda. We have Ordinance 4, Series 2023. This is a Title 12 amendment for organics waste diversion.
Whoever's presenting, if you could go ahead and transition. Verify all your packets ready. Thanks.
Hello, hello.
Jimena just stepped out to use the bathroom, so she'll be back.
As well as a few others.
No, usually when you present and you're like hooked into an HDMI, you will see like this up here and then your notes. That's okay.
I'm diverting organic waste.
I'm just going to pull up the presentation on my laptop for reference notes to make sure we cover everything. Perfect. How do you want to be able to say it? That's fine. Okay. You think you can say it? Yeah. Okay. Good evening, Council. It's nice to see you all here tonight. My name is Ainsley Brosnan-Smith, and I am the Waste Diversion and Recycling Specialist, or Program Administrator, actually, for the Environmental Health and Sustainability Department. And with me is one of our newer members of our team.
Hey everyone, I'm Jimena Baldino, and I'm the Waste Diversion and Recycling Specialist.
And we're here to talk about organic waste diversion. So the purpose of tonight's meeting, if I can switch the slide, is a first reading of amendments to Title 12, Solid Waste, adding Chapter 12.05, Organic Waste Diversion. I have to click it to...
So the agenda for today is, in first place, small background and previous council direction. Then we are going to go in more detail of Chapter 12.05, Organic Waste Diversion. And in third place, we're going to open for council discussion and next directions. We support organic diversion because in 2021, council set a carbon goal that led you to this new science-based target. The first one is a greenhouse gas emissions reduction of 63% by 2030 and zero carbon emissions by 2050. We also have a total landfill reduction of 70% by 2050 and organics reduction of 25% by 2025 and 100% by 2050. In 2020, we hosted a greenhouse gas emissions inventory where we studied which emissions we were generating. We got that 16% of that emissions are from the solid waste disposal. When we dispose organic materials as trash and it goes to the landfill, we create methane, a gas that's stronger than CO2, and we are also taking up space in the landfill because organic materials don't have the ability to break down. Organics diversion is also one of our priorities in the climate action plan that you're going to be seeing next week. This past summer, the Pitkin County Solid Waste Center hosted a waste characterization where they studied which materials they were receiving as trash. In this graph, you can see highlighted the materials that are compostable, and that includes compostable organics, compostable paper, and other organics. In average, we got that 42.6% of that materials were compostable, and that's 7% more than the last waste characterization they hosted in 2015. So when we see these numbers, we can say that if we keep having only voluntary participation, we are not going to be able to meet the goals I mentioned before.
Thank you, Jimena. And I just want to do some brief background before we go into the specifics of the ordinance we're here for tonight. And so in September of 2022 is when I was here last and presented on the state of organic material in the trash. And we were directed from you all to return for a first reading that prohibits the landfilling of organic material. I also want to talk about stakeholder feedback. So last year around this time, we reached out to the business community asking them why they do not divert their organics from the trash. What we heard from them were the top 4 barriers to entry for organic diversion was space, wildlife, smell, and cost. Our department has evaluated each one of these concerns and is prepared to overcome these challenges. For space, we have done an inventory in partnership with our engineering department of all of the alleys in Aspen, and we have found that there is adequate space to add enough receptacles for compost that will satisfy the entire commercial demand. For wildlife, we are working in partnership with our Aspen Police Department to make sure that we are suggesting the best practices when it comes to containers outdoors with organic material in them. So we are promoting wildlife safety and public safety. For smell, we actually, last summer for reference, we had no complaints related to the smell of organics in the city. However, we do have items like odor neutralizers, or we can work with haulers to increase the frequency of the collection for organic disposal. For cost, our department has allocated existing funds to subsidize some of the startup costs associated with this ordinance, which I will go into more detail next. Chapter 12.05, Organic Waste Diversion. So what is it? The purpose of this chapter is to prohibit the disposal of organic material as landfill trash, meaning no food waste, no compostable materials, no soiled papers can be disposed of as trash and must alternatively be disposed of in a sustainable manner, such as composting, donation for animal feed, or partnering with a local food shelter or food bank to deliver those prepared meals. We are also making sure in this ordinance that we are mandating the use of certified wildlife-proof receptacles when storing organic material outdoor for collection. This would affect the commercial sector and would be mandated for them to comply with. And this is also in partnership with our Aspen Police Department to make sure that we are using the receptacles that have been proven to be most successful in keeping bears and wildlife out of the waste. I will also mention that these receptacles range anywhere from $500 to $1,000 each. These are the steel containers you might be familiar with around town, hosting their organic waste. And that is funding we have existing and allocated for 2023. For enforcement, I want to touch upon what it would look like to make sure everybody is in compliance with this code. Our department, Environmental Health and Sustainability, will be the key enforcers behind this. We really want to approach it from an educational and training front, making sure that businesses are in compliance through offering our ongoing trainings that we offer now for staff to know what can go where, what is organic material, and how to properly dispose of it. We can also, and still do, provide signage for any restaurant or business that is interested in increasing educational materials around their operation. And we also can provide indoor receptacles for that separation of organic material to make sure it's going from inside to outside as organic, separate organic material. I also will mention there is a penalty assessment, a part of this code, and we have the ability to write tickets for noncompliance. However, like I mentioned, we just want to make sure that organic material is staying out of the trash, and we want to come at it from an educational and training front. What will this all look like? So we're proposing a 5-year approach with 3 phases. If this is to be adopted, the first phase would come in September of this year, 2023, and all businesses with a retail food license must comply. And we selected retail food licenses because they are restaurants, and restaurants are the largest generators of organic waste. And if we want to reach those goals of 25% by 2025 and 100% by 2050, we need to start with the largest generators first. Next, in 2026, all commercial businesses and multifamily properties must comply. And then in January 1st of 2028, anyone generating organic waste within Aspen must comply with this code. We are leaving some time in between each phase because we want to learn from the successes and challenges that come from this code. And we want to make sure that we are engaging residents and community members to let them know that their stage, their phase is approaching and how they can comply. So to wrap it up, as Jimena mentioned, and I previously mentioned, our goals of 25% by 2025 are not going to be reached if we continue at voluntary participation rate. We've had voluntary participation in composting for the last 10 years, and we've only seen a 3 to 4% diversion of organic material on average each year, and we are looking at it 25% by 2025. And so staff recommends council approve ordinance number 4 of series 2023 on first reading. And I will now open the floor for council discussion, direction, questions, and next steps. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have anything, Rachel?
You know, it looks like you're really covering a lot of the bases, and I appreciate the phased approach and the kind of educational approach, even though it does have potential fines. You'd like to think that that's close to a last resort. And particularly because so many businesses, whether we say it as money, it's really about having the staffing and the time to be able to, and that it's hard enough to get people. So I really appreciate phasing it in. I would absolutely, totally support this going forward. I really have like two comments. One is that I think you should budget some money somewhere for being able to power wash the containers in the alleys periodically, whether that's at the end of winter, once in the summer, or later on. But that's where the containers get bad. I have one at Hunter Creek, and you just don't want to lift it open, you know? So that's the one thing I've noticed. They never seem to clean the containers. The second thing is I think, I know you'll have a pretty big rollout and information on this. I really think you should think about staging a little bit of a GrassRoots TV panel discussion with 2 or 3 people, pay for the review, why this is important, what people are doing, what help is available, how to get in touch, and even considering some of those sponsorship ads like they have at the Pitkin County landfill, which have been really highly successful about how to recycle right, how to do things right. And, you know, just it's a jovial type of program they've had out there. But I just want to make sure that we're reaching people with both the benefits and the hows, and that seems to be a good avenue.
Yeah, that's a great note. Thank you. And Carolyn is here, who's our communications team representative, so.
Can help put something together. Very good. Thank you.
John and then Ward.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. One thing that I can't help but think about now, and I know this is outside our purview, is that some of the biggest restaurants that we have in our community are up on the mountains. And I know that's in the county, but I'd like to see them composting as well. And because we share the landfill, it's actually the Pitkin County landfill, I would hope that the county and the ski company could get behind this effort as well.
Yeah, SkiCo does actively compost. They have a compost hauler and they have compostable materials, but we definitely believe we could assist and do some more training.
Absolutely. I've frequent the area ski mountains, and I'm aware of how much composting is going on, and I know there's room for improvement.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, John.
I have a number of comments, but I'd like to move to read ordinance for 2023 on.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for reading of ordinance number 4. Any further discussion? Could we have a roll call vote for reading of ordinance number 4, please?
Councillor Doyle?
Yes.
Councillor Howenstein?
Yes.
Councillor Mesereau? Councillor Richards?
Yes.
Mayor Tory?
Yes.
Ordinance number 4, series of 2023, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Aspen, Colorado, amending Title 12 of the Aspen Municipal Code to add a new chapter entitled 12.05 Organic Waste Diversion to include provisions restricting the disposal of organic materials as trash.
All right. I spoke with about 7 restaurants today, and some of them were vaguely recalled having conversations in 21, 22. It came as a surprise to a number of them. I don't think there was one that I spoke to that didn't support this, some that are actively doing it already. So the support is there. But one of the interesting comments that I received was, why are we just doing restaurants now? Why don't we do everybody? It's a big, so I guess the point that I'm trying to make is maybe the phasing is too long, that if we identify it as a problem, that if we could phase it in more quickly, I think would be better for our environment. And I would really like to see, before second reading, more direct contact with the restaurant management and owners to let them know what's coming and give them an opportunity to be here for public comment and second reading.
Sure.
Thank you, Ward.
I'm glad you said that. So the ones that you spoke to, Ward, they're all supportive, even if they were surprised with it coming forward today?
Yeah, some of them have been doing it for a while, but they were supportive. They had some problems or some concerns with receptacles too close to air intakes and some issues, but the support is there.
Okay.
And
That's
it's
good.
just a matter of reaching out to them and to make them well aware of it, that it's coming, and it's because some of them had never heard of it. And so we just need to have some outreach.
I mean, it's amazing how much staff has turned over often between now and then. I mean, or even 2 months ago. I really want this to be successful. I think this is great and really good work. And my questions, I think Ward answered some of them, but from the business owner and employee standpoint, you know, I heard that we're going to provide free or subsidized in some way receptacles. What are the other things that we learned in business outreach that were points of friction or challenge for the businesses, and how are we addressing those if we are?
Sure, and I think you named it in the beginning. It's employee turnover and training, so we can go and train all of the staff 1 week, and there might be 50% new staff the month later or so. So that's definitely a point of concern. Some restaurants brought up the time it would take to separate. However, if we replace a trash can with a compost bin and they're chopping everything up and already doing the action of throwing items away, we can mitigate those time issues of just replacing it with a receptacle. We also heard that the restaurants wanted to make sure all of the restaurants were doing it. We heard some folks say that I don't want to do it if someone else doesn't have to do it. So kind of along those lines of what Ward was saying, but more on like a restaurant retail food basis. And last year when we did our outreach, we were able to contact 86% of the restaurants, whether it was through email, in-person visits. We had a survey that went out, and we had held a webinar and a film at the Wheeler where we talked about this upcoming ordinance. It just can be very difficult to get participation sometimes.
And do we know what the additional cost is to an average restaurant, or, you know, is there an example or two of what this looks like for them?
Sure. So I can give you averages. And the cost of a compost receptacle and in comparison to a trash receptacle is around half the cost for the same amount of collection. And as we saw, around 42% of their trash right now is organic material. So if we start shifting that organic material over into a compost collection hauling service, that is half the cost.
So up to a 21% benefit to them.
There could be some potential savings, but there are some things like businesses share receptacles right now, and they will have to figure that out between themselves.
Okay. But it won't be a cost burden. It will be, if anything, a benefit.
Yeah, they will have to start transitioning their services and working with their haulers, their trash servicers, to say we need less. You don't need to come Monday through Friday because we're composting now. Our trash isn't filling up as quickly.
And is it easy for all of them to just add that to their services, or is it, complicated for some?
We have two really awesome haulers, Evergreen Zero Waste and Mountain Waste, and they are ready and in support of this ordinance, and they're excited about it.
Awesome. Yeah, it's great. I just, I think success in the short term will look like restaurants are excited and see benefit that they can share in this. If it feels like a chore and something else to do, then it's like less likely to be successful. So I'm glad to hear we're doing all that. And like Ward said, I'd love some direct feedback from that community. And mostly I want that community to know that, you guys really are on the front lines as the team there to facilitate this thing that's best for them in the community, and that we're, going to be learning through it together, and they should feel like, we're not someone to avoid, but someone to come to help, so.
Right, and we're both very passionate about this, so we're excited to work with them.
Super cool.
Individually.
Can I jump in? I think Skippy has made a really good point, and there's ways to try to, sorry, thank you, had my pointer off. To invoke a sense of pride that you're participating in this program, whether it's developing a logo that if they wanted to, an indicia they could put on their menus when they reprint. We're proud to participate in, composting program, or I've seen others that make a little circle kind of door logo you can stick on the bottom of your door that proud participant in Aspen 100% composting or something like that. We're part of the climate action team, but let's think about ways in which participants can be rewarded and acknowledged.
Love that.
Yeah, I agree with that. That sounds
Thank you.
great.
And maybe adding on to that, the amount of organic waste that's been diverted as time goes on.
try to get, yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, these are all great things we can work with our communications team on. Thank you.
My only comments are thank you so much for bringing this forward. This is first reading. We'll see this again coming up soon. I want to compliment you on the memo that you presented to us. Very well done. Great information. And I mean that sincerely. Reading through it, I was learning about the issue as we were getting to, so I just really appreciate how you presented your information here. You know, I'm a composter at my own home for years and years now, and what I saw in my own home about trash versus compost was unbelievable. I went from taking my garbage out, you know, every couple days or a full can every week to monthly. You know, the wrappers and the true landfill trash is so minimal, and my compost goes out every week. It's also something that it feels good, and it feels a healthier style of living and a greater appreciation for a lot of the environmental initiatives that we have in the city. So thank you so much for bringing this forward. I really appreciate it. Look for final comments. Skippy?
One, our experience as a couple in a place is exactly like yours. I mean, trash goes out maybe once a month, so it's great. But mostly I just wanted to say thanks to you, Tori, because this is an issue that you have really pushed and championed. It's been close to your heart from the very beginning, and it's cool to see it take form. So I just want to say thank you for leadership on that.
Thanks.
And just the last comment, I just still think there can be better outreach to the general community about how they can compost. You know, when you have the slide up that says a certain amount is compostable paper, I'm not sure which compostable paper I should be putting in there versus in the recycling container, which goes in compost, you know, and I sometimes think, God, would all this blow away up in that, you know, sorting room they have? Are they really using it or not? But so I think outreach to the general community will help the restaurants feel they're participating in something that we're all doing and we're all interested in, but then also just to help the rest of us understand a little better how to do it.
There was I don't know if you guys remember this, it's just a hilarious video. I can't remember which Aspen group did it. I know Christine Benedetti was part of the project, but it was like how to carry and not carry your skis. Yeah. And it was super funny. And I can imagine a composting video with a similar arc could be really entertaining.
I like that idea.
Thank you.
I can't pass this one by, Skip. You. When my kids were young, we would sit at the Ruby Park bus stop and we would score the people by how they carried their skis. But,
next candidate debate forum.
Yeah, I'm supportive of this. I read in the memo that you have free countertop compostable containers. I wasn't aware of that. I'll be seeing you soon.
Yes.
I've been doing composting probably since the inception, like Tori as well. And one thing that's been a challenge, and I don't know what we can do about it, but I don't know, is that logo, it doesn't seem to be a universal logo of what is compostable. Because sometimes I'll look something and Mimi, it says compostable. I don't know, what is this logo? And so if we could try to move to some kind of easily identifiable logo for what is compostable.
I agree with that because it's always, particularly fat, you know, you always hear don't compost fat and meat. It's bad for the compost. But then I see other people doing small scraps and you just don't know sometimes where you should throw it. So that'll be helpful for all of us.
For the logo, I would go with anything that says BPI certified compostable. That is the standard we go with. We want to avoid things that say made with plants, green, sustainably made. That's kind of misleading, and
That's marketing.
it is marketing, and there's plastics in those.
Anybody can say that.
And then for the composting question specifically, meat, bones, cheese, all of that can be composted because Pitkin County has an industrial, it's considered an industrial composting site where they can grind, sift, sieve, all of that. But it's when it's in your backyard, you don't really want the bones and the fat.
Yeah, okay. Well, that helps.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You know, and just for public information, I mean, that's the beauty of this is that the compostable organics go to the landfill, get turned into high-grade soils that are used throughout our entire valley. So avoiding the landfill, but also a benefit, and a benefit to Pitkin County, who makes a little bit of money off of that operation. So this is a win-win for our community. Thank you again. Is there a motion?
I move we adopt ordinance 4, Series 2023 on first reading.
Second.
Motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? None. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Howenstein?
Yes.
Counselor Mesereau?
C.
Counselor Richards?
Yes.
Mayor Tory?
Yes.
Great. Well, next steps, we will return on February 28th for a second reading. Thank you so
for the
much.
work.
Thank you.
Good stuff.
And we will get switched over to our next item, which is ordinance number 5.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks.
Night, Tessa.
See ya. Thank you. Great work.
Nice to meet you, Jimena. Bye.
Thank you.
Dude, I'm just dying today. I'm sorry.
What are they now? What is it? Okay, okay. All right, this is ordinance number 5. This is aligning Aspen's general fee schedule with the provisions in the newly adopted building and energy codes, and the new renewable energy mitigation payment calculator tool.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For the record, Ben Anderson with Community Development. Here on behalf of my building review team, who you've spent some time with recently in the passage of Ordinance 1 on January 24th of this year, implementing new building and energy codes. And part of that discussion and the adoption of that ordinance included some fairly significant changes to our rent program. And the way that this is proposed to be managed, these changes, incorporating the changes into a new calculator, you adopted the policies and some of the specifics behind that new rent program. And coming later this month on the 28th, there's going to be a resolution in front of you, resolution number 27, that will adopt this new rent calculator. We're doing that by resolution for one primary reason, that it's a fairly complex calculation that responds to technology, responds to efficiency of photovoltaics, and it needs to change over time, to be frank. And so by doing it as a resolution, it is a more streamlined and we feel appropriate process as we need to make minor changes to that calculator. So it's not that the calculator won't be approved by this council, but it's being approved by a different process. What this ordinance does very quickly is align Ordinance 1 and this Resolution 27 that you're going to be contemplating in a couple weeks by eliminating some discussion in Title 2, which has our general fee schedule, that has some information about REMP and numbers related to REMP calculation that are no longer going to be relevant following passage of Ordinance 1 and certainly the eventual approval of the new REMP calculator. So what this does is simply clean up the municipal code to be consistent with the changes that were made in Ordinance 1 and the new REMP calculator. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but we recommend approval of Ordinance 5 on first reading.
Questions here?
No questions.
I would make a motion for reading ordinance 5.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Got it, clearly.
This favors that side of the table
Clearly.
now. Fine.
Can we have a roll call vote for a reading of ordinance number 5?
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Howenstein?
Yes.
Counselor Mesereau?
Yes.
Counselor Richards?
Yes.
Mayor Tory?
Yes.
Ordinance number 5, series of 2023, an ordinance of the Aspen City Council amending City of Aspen Municipal Code Section 2.12.100, building and planning fees related specifically to the renewable energy mitigation payment for exterior energy uses on residential and commercial development.
If there's no further questions or requests for information at second reading, we could take another motion.
I move we adopt ordinance 25, series.
Number 5.
Number 5, 2023.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second for ordinance number 5 on first reading. Any further discussion? Seeing none, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Howenstein?
Yes.
Counselor Mazzaro?
Yes.
Counselor Richards?
Yes.
Mayor Tory?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Thanks for staying with us, guys.
More fun.
Mr. Mayor, staff is requesting that council go into executive session pursuant to CRS Section 246402-4B. It disappeared. Conferences with an attorney for a local public body for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions. 4E, determining positions relative to matters that are subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiation, and instructing negotiators. Specific items of discussion involved the following: ongoing litigation, which is the Centennial Owners Association versus City of Aspen et al., case number 215 CV 030158, and case number 217 CA 2099. And the second matter is not ongoing litigation, but legal advice regarding the 1994 settlement agreement in the Centennial Aspen 2 Limited Partnership, United States District Court, Civil Action Number 92B 2570. If council elects to go into a executive session, the executive session will be recorded. The recording will be maintained by the clerk for a period of not less than 90 days. As is usual, we will convene the executive session downstairs in council chambers. We will not return here for the final adjournment of this meeting.
To clarify,
Electric pass, not council chambers, although I kind of consider them council chambers.
Teleportation device.
This is council chambers.
So it is.
Okay, we'll go downstairs to electric pass. We
Sounds
will
great.
not return to council chambers to adjourn this meeting. Sorry.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
So seconded.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, could we have a roll call vote for going into executive session, please?
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Howenstein?
Yes.
Counselor Mazzaro?
Aye.
Counselor Richards?
Yes.
Mayor Tory?
Yes.
Thank you.
As always, we want to thank you, GrassRoots. Thanks for all you do.
Electric pass, indeed.